Hi everyone, it's Moby from Moby Motion. Welcome back to the channel. Now I know I haven't posted in a long time, so I thought I'd make this live stream to make my tutorial as interactive as possible. I'm going to jump straight into it, but I'm first just going to check that all the live streaming is working because it went live accidentally the last time I tried. And so I've had to create a new event. Let's see if this new stream is up and running. If you can see this, if this is streaming live, just leave me a message so I know. Okay, awesome. Looks like it is running. I can see chat. I'm just going to leave a message in the chat. Awesome, thanks for the messages. Sorry, I'm not sure what happened with the last stream. It just cut itself off. Awesome. All right, let's get started. So, the idea I had was like, imagine a fish tank filled with particles, and these particles are dancing in time with music. That's the kind of thing I'm going to go for. And I'm going to use this as a chance to get to grips with Blender 3.0. I actually haven't used it before. And I'm going to be using the molecular add-on script from Pyro Evil. So a lot of you are familiar with this because I've used it in the past. But it's actually no longer supported officially by Pyro Evil, the original developer. But luckily, and this is one of the great things about the open source community, is that it's been updated by the community and it now does work with Blender 3.0. So I'm just going to post a link to the GitHub in this in the description so that you guys can follow along if you like, or that later people can download the plugin and use the same version that I'm using. So, plugin for 3.0. So if anyone wants to check out the plugin that I'm using, you can now check the description of this video and it should be there. So let's get started. I'm just going to delete the light because I don't really like it. And I'm going to make sure I have screencast keys on. It's annoying, it seems to switch itself off for some reason. Yeah, there it is. And I'm going to keep the cube. I'm going to scale it down in the Z axis. And I'm going to scale it, but lock the Z axis. I'm going to make like a flat, this is going to be the tabletop actually. So let's scale this up 32 times, it's going to be huge. Let's add a second cube. This is going to be our fish tank. Let's get it sitting on top of it there. Actually, let's get the size right first. So, when you think of a fish tank, usually it's this kind of shape. It's kind of longer in one axis. Maybe it's tall as well. there. I think that's good. Now we've got it sitting right on top of the table. I'm just going to move the camera. I'm not really going to render anything yet, but I just want to... Oh no. They've changed Shift F. What is Shift F now? How do you move the camera? I'm just going to check the comments while I wait. So Juan Arcos, thanks very much for the comment. I think I got your message on the Blender Market. So Autofocus Pro works exactly as it should do in Blender 3.0. I recently had confirmation from the person that had a bug, but basically it was a problem with their project. There's no bug with Autofocus Pro in Blender 3.0, so it should work just as before. But if you want, I can still make a new tutorial. I haven't made one for a while. Does anyone know how to Shift F in Blender 3.0? I think this has been changed for a while, actually. Fly mode. Oh, I think I've come across this before. No problem, Juan. If you have any problems at all, just let me know. Ooh, this looks like something. Ah. Yeah, I've come across this problem before. I think it was in 2.8 or 2.9. I'm going to add a shortcut. Shift F. Nice. So I'm just going to get the camera lined up. And this is a bit different from before. This camera fly setting, it kind of has some momentum. So once you start moving it in one direction, it keeps going in that direction, and I don't like that. Is that what walk navigation is? Yeah, I think so. So let's actually remove, oh no, remove shortcut. Let's add it here and see if that's right. Yeah, this is the fly navigation that I like. This is what I'm used to. And one of my favorite tips for this is if you scroll on your mouse, so you see first it's making really big movements and they're too big. It's hard to get this finely adjusted. But if I scroll down on my mouse, it makes all the movements much finer. Do I want to see anything past the table? No, but I'll just make this bigger. Okay. Now this is going to be like a glass container. It's going to be filled with particles. So let's add some thickness to it. What is the modifier I'm looking for? Solidify, I think that's it. So let's look at this in wireframe, see what it looks like. Nice. Now, I want the thickness to only be on the inside. That's what it does by default. Cool. Let's make it a bit thicker, 0.1. That's good, actually. Maybe a little more. Yeah. Now I might have to rework this actually. I'm not sure how collisions will work with this fully enclosed mesh, but let's try. Let's see if this works, because it would be easier and a bit neater to do it with one object rather than having to build your own fish tank from extruding and things. So I'm getting a request for the molecular add-on. Let me just check if it's there. So I can see the plugin in my description. Maybe it takes a while to upload. Maybe you have to like leave and join the stream, but I'll just post it in the chat there so you have it. And this is basically the molecular plugin, but it's updated for Blender 3.0. And I'm going to be using it for the first time now, so we'll get to grips with it together. That'll be fun. Okay, you should just see it in chat. Okay. I'm kind of curious how collisions will work with this solidified mesh. So I kind of want to get that out of the way. I want to just check that it works before we go any further. So let's add a new cube. This is just going to be for testing. And this cube is going to have some particles. So let's give it a particle system. Let's go to the first frame, which we already are at. And let's press play to see what happens. Okay, nothing happens because there's no collisions enabled on this. But let's add them. And now go back to the first frame with shift left and run them. Nice, and it seems to respect the walls. I wonder if it is respecting the walls or if it's just pretending there's no constraint on there. It's only inside the cube. Let's make sure that's not happening. What's it called? It's called like deflect by particle size. There's a setting that will make this not go through anymore. Let's see. This makes sure that we don't see the cube later when we do render it. Okay, display as rendered, and then rendered has some scale. I don't speak Spanish, no. I speak Arabic, if there's any Arabs in the chat. Deflection. Yeah, here we are. Size deflect. Now it's not going to go through the cube. Oh, nice. I think this is behaving as I want it. So you can see it's getting deflected by the inset on the cube, not the outer wall. So this is good. I thought that would be a headache, but I'm glad it's kind of just worked. Thanks for anyone just catching the stream now. Make sure to like the video if you want to see more like this. It really helps more people discover the stream. Awesome. So that's the part which I thought would be hard. Let's do the fun part. Let's start with the molecular simulation. I'm going to remove this particle system and I'm going to add it from the molecular script. I think it would have worked even if I didn't remove it, but this way I'm just making sure. So this is the new molecular script. If anyone's downloaded it from that link or from the description, it now shows up here, not in the particle settings where it used to be. And I'm going to make sure that collision is set on here. Yeah, it uses the same collision, so you didn't have to remove that and set it from here. You can set the collisions from here as well. Let's start with the particles. Let's go to the first frame, emitter. Now, I want all the particles to be emitted on the first frame. So let's start with that. This is going to end up being a very long video. But the important thing is frame start and frame end. This is the frames where particles are produced in between. So if this is 1 and 1, you see all the particles are produced on frame 1, which is where I am now. Now the problem is they're all being emitted from the faces of this cube, and I want them to come up from the volume instead. So let's go here into source, volume. Let's change the frame a little bit. So you can see this looks a bit better. Now I'm going to use a grid distribution, because this way you can really make sure that you're filling up the space as much as you can. And that is the case by default here, which is nice. But if the spacing was off, then you would have to change the size, which you can change here, I think. No, that didn't do anything. Thanks for all the comments. So this is my first time using Blender 3.0 properly. So I got the molecular script up and running just to make sure that it works and that I don't have to use an old version. But ask me that after I finish. Yeah. Welcome back from Nico. Thank you very much. Okay. Changing the particle size in the molecular script was always a pain. I thought you used to have to change it from the render settings. Maybe that's different now. So these are being rendered as halo at the minute, which isn't really what we want. Let's fix that and see if that helps. I'm going to make a new sphere. Let's give it a bit more resolution. That'll do. I'm going to hide it below the table so no one can see this. I'm just going to make a note of this name. It's just called icosphere. There's no number associated with it. And I'm going to make each particle an instance of this icosphere. So render as object. Nice. The object is going to be icosphere. Nice. I think this will help us with the scaling. Yeah. So you can see the object changes size as I change this scale. Okay, so let's stick with this default and see how this goes. Yeah. Okay. Let's run this simulation first of all and see what it looks like. Let's see if it behaves like a molecular simulation should. So I'm going to click Start Simulation. I'm scared. I don't want to break my computer. Okay, so using all the threads. Nice. I'm going to save my progress before we accidentally break anything by baking. Especially when you're using like an experimental plugin, you want to save your progress as much as possible. So let's see, Google Drive. Date 22nd. Cool. Now that's saved, let's start the simulation. I'll have a look at your messages while that's running. Someone thinks I'm on Blender 2.94. How do I get the splash screen up? Nope. Oh. Very well spotted. Thank you, beheaded kamikaze. This is live, Mahir. Okay, so we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is the script works. It looks like it's being simulated exactly how I thought it would. And this new molecular script even has this progress bar, which is really nice. It didn't used to have this before. The bad news is I might be using the wrong version of Blender. Someone thinks I'm using 2.94, where I want to use 3.0. Let's see, splash screen. 2.93. Okay. I'm going to close this file and open it back up in 3.0. Okay, software 3.0. This is the nice thing about being live as well. People catch my mistakes. Awesome. Okay, so I've got Blender 3.0. I'm going to save this. Now, I'm not sure if you can cancel molecular bakes. Let's see. Nice, that's saved it successfully. Now, there is a bake there, but I think trying to transfer a bake from one version of Blender to another could be problematic. But let's see, let's try it out. I'm going to save this. Now, I'm going to switch my OBS window capture to the new Blender. Yeah. I'm just changing over my display capture. This is weird. I think my computer's freaking out. Nope. I fixed it. Okay, now you should see Blender 3.0. Awesome. Now, I'm just going to resize the window. Sweet. Okay, thanks very much, very well spotted. So now we've got 3.0, let's close the old file and open it in the new Blender. Okay, fish tank. Nice. Nothing's crashed so far. And the simulation is still there. But now the question is, can we add the plugin? So let's go into preferences. Okay. Now we're going to download we're going to install the file from, it's the same file that I linked in the chat and that I put in the description. So let's go into my scripts. You know, you use this plugin a lot when you have a whole folder just for different versions of the molecular script. And then the latest version is this thing called Molecular Plus. So let's hope this works. Nice, it looks like it works. Let's enable it. Cool, I'm optimistic. And while I'm here, I'm just going to install the other plugins that I need, like screencast keys. And a plugin which I use a lot is material utils, and this should be built into Blender. Oh, you can't see my settings window, I think. That's awkward. Oh, cool. Thanks, Beheaded. I actually have Sizer, and I use it for other reasons, but I do need to make a preset for Blender for live streams, you're right. Yeah, I kind of realized that you can't see the pop-up window, the preferences window, but just to keep you in the loop, I've just added the molecular script. It seems to be working. I've added screencast keys, and I'm adding another plugin called Material Utilities, which is really nice. And that's all added, so we're both looking at the same screen now. Let's make sure this is on. Cool. Why screencast keys? Oh, there it is. Cool. Now let's have a look at the molecular script. I'm going to save my file again. I'm going to free this bake, and I'm going to see if it will bake the simulation in 3.0. Oh, nice. Cool. I'm going to have a look at some of your messages while that's baking. Thank you, Beheaded. Hey, Froggo. Welcome to anyone just tuning in. So I'm going to be making a fishbowl simulation in this tutorial. It's kind of a fishbowl, but it's animated in time with some music. And you can even help me pick some music later on if you want. So we can actually stop this bake because it was just to test things, just to make sure that things are working okay. Okay. Are we ready for the music? I think we're ready to add the music. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go on the YouTube music library. And we can pick a song together. I'm not sure what kind of mood to go for. I'm not sure whether like a relaxed kind of calm visualization would be nice, or something more energetic. But let's see what catches our eyes. Let me know what you think of these songs in the chat. This is a bit weird, but I do like it. Should I share my screen? Oh, I quite like this song. What do you guys think? Start this. Which one's number 5 beheaded? Is that the one that I like that I started? The one before it? There's some other stuff in that same genre. I don't want to spend too long on this. Yeah, this one's good. Let's stick with this, and then I can do it for more songs in the future, maybe. Now the way I'm going to do this, the way I'm going to make these particles dance is by keyframing their size. So what we're going to do is go down to the size or the scale attribute that we saw earlier, and we're going to insert keyframe just so it shows up in the curve editor. We're going to get a new window up. This is going to be our curves or graph editor. And now we're going to bake sound to curve. I hope it's still called the same. I'll see. Bake sound to F curves, yes. So, nice. So the curve is, or the size of the particles is now dictated by the music. So you can see they're tiny and then they get huge. Hey Joe, welcome to the chat. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to anyone in the chat. Or to everyone in the chat. So we're making this fishbowl like particle visualization, and we want the music to drive the size of the particles, and that way they're going to pop in time with the music. But the scale is a bit off, and that's what we're going to fix now. So you can see the scale goes all the way from 0, like the particles have 0 scale, all the way to 1 scale, which is a huge difference. And we don't want that. We want it to be more subtle. So let's figure this out together. You can't grab the curve, so I pressed G and nothing happened. But you can have some control over it with modifiers. So let's see. I just want a function that'll add to this first of all. I want to make everything bigger by about 0.5. Nice. I think this is doing something. So what if I want the minimum to be 0.5 and the max to be 1? No, that's not it. We need to add control points. Okay, let's see. Now what if I increase this? Nice. So the particles before, I think they were 0.5. Can anyone remember what the particle size was? I think it was 0.5, but let's check. Let's go to the first frame. No, that's way too big. Maybe it was 0.05 then. What's going on? Oh, this used to be -1. Okay, so the range is like between 0 and 1. We want this to be 0.05, I think. Yes, nice. So at the start we have 0 music and the particles are the size that we want. But now we don't want them to get like huge, we only want them to get us a little bit bigger. So let's say 0.1. And you can see now the scale doesn't change as drastically, it just kind of goes up and down a little bit. And now let's free the bake and bake it and make sure that this size is accounted for in the simulation. So save my progress before any bake, start the simulation. Let's see. So I don't expect it to do much in the first bit while the music's just not even started yet. Okay, it's still going. That's one of the things about the molecular scripts, it's very slow. Maybe I should have thought about that before doing this live. But there are some things that I can do to speed it up. So let's actually cancel this bake because these might be useful tips in and of themselves. So we don't need to do 9 steps between every frame. Let's try just 0 work. Let's definitely save. Usually you want to increase this number if your simulation is unstable. So this looks a bit unstable, it looks a bit weird, so we definitely need to increase it. But you want to make this as low as you can and get away with it. So let's try 2. And as long as it behaves like something like what you want, I'll be happy with it. No. Okay, let's do 4. This is still going to simulate twice as fast as the previous default. Now this is a little bit bouncy. It tends to have that kind of quality to it when you reduce the step count, but I'm fine with that. I just want to check that when the size increases here, I want to check that the particle size actually changes in the simulation as well. Okay, so the size is about to go up. Let's see if it goes up. Let's zoom into these particles. Why didn't that change the view? Because I changed the Blender version. So while that's simulating, I'm just going to enable one of my favorite preferences. I think this should be on my default, really. And this is emulate numpad. Because I never have a numpad. Who has a numpad these days? Okay, emulate numpad. Now I press 1. It'll give us front view. The particles all look kind of the same size. I'm not sure if they're growing. What I want is for them to grow and shrink in time with the music. So this should be dictating their size. But let's see. I'm going to keep an eye on this level. So the particles are kind of around this line. Ooh, and they are growing. Nice, I think this is working. I think this is going to look really cool. I'm just going to let that simulate for a bit. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea. right, how are things coming along? Particles are a little bit bigger, but not much bigger. Ah. Okay. I think this isn't bouncing as much as I would like because of the low step count. I actually think that if the step count was higher, if it was the default 9, then it would be much more bouncy because it would react instantly to these size changes. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to increase the step count, and then I'm going to have a look at the chat. So let's cancel. This is a great feature, by the way, the cancel button. I'm not sure if that was always there. So let's increase the step count, and I think this should make it a lot more bouncy. And the size is good, yeah, between 0.05 and 0.1. I think this should be good. So let's free the bake and save, start the simulation, and I'll have a look at the chat. eFast production. What's the issue? How can we help? Oh, hey Blender Rookie, haven't seen you in a long time. How are things? So I've got I think it's a Yorkshire tea today. I like Earl Grey, but it's kind of, I don't like having it every day. So I've got a normal Yorkshire tea with some milk and sweetener. I've got it in my festive mug. I'm not sure if you can see that. Yeah. What does AFK mean? Oh, Joe Black, that is a great idea. So Joe Black has just suggested that we can use fewer particles while we're just tinkering, so that it'll simulate much faster, and I think that's the way forward. So let's do that. Okay, I actually like the particle size and all the spacing and things, so I don't want to mess with that. What I'll do instead is just make this cube smaller, the cube that's making them. So, because I'm using the grid method of making the particles, this should make the same density of particles but from a smaller space. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I think this is a good compromise. Or should we make them even bigger? I think we should make them even bigger actually. We'll make even fewer particles. I actually think that fewer particles would look better. The scene I was looking, or the scene I was imagining, had these bigger particles moving around. So let's do that. Okay. It's going to be tricky to tune the side, but I think it'll be worth it. So the resolution of the grid, that's what we need to tune. So if we decrease this, after we freed the bake, we'll get a sparser grid, so we'll get fewer particles. This is going to simulate much faster, even this change. So let's see there. Let's try that a little more. Okay. Now we're going to have to increase the particle size to make up for that, so the volume isn't just empty. So let's see. 0.1. Okay, and then we'll increase this to, let's say, 0.2. And let's start simulation. Cool. G'day, Joe. Oh, away from keyboard, cool. I feel like it's really embarrassing that I didn't know that as like the person who's doing the stream. Yeah, this is starting to look good. This is kind of what I pictured. Someone mentioned that we might have to cut this just to the drop, like once the beat of the music starts. I think that could be a good idea. I know I was talking earlier about reducing the step count to increase the simulation speed, but actually for the final render we will have to increase this even more than default. Because you can see one of the properties that it has when the step count is low. So the walls get bigger, but then it doesn't really react straight away. So they get bigger and then there's kind of this lag. It feels like jelly, the way that the fluid reacts. And so that's something that you can improve by improving the step count, because it just means it'll do more calculations in between every frame. But this is starting to have some of the character that I wanted. I think we can get the particle count even smaller. I'm going to halve the particle count, so I'm going to combine these two techniques. I'm going to get less particles, and I'm going to keep them this big size they are. Let's free all the bakes, and let's see what this looks like. It's going to be very tempting. It's always tempting to change these settings and to tweak things. And I'm going to do my best to resist that and wait until the beat comes in, because I want to see how it reacts when this comes in there. What's everyone's plans for the holiday season? Okay, we're about halfway to this big, this first beat there. I think that's really going to make all the particles pop up. Or I hope it does. That's what I've been going for. So beheaded, I don't mind if you post a link to the Blend Discord, I'll approve that. I'm going to watch The Witcher. Cool. I've not seen it actually, but my sister had the exact same thing. So she was going to watch the second season, but she's just finished watching the first season a second time to refresh her memory. Blendering. How about me? So this is going to be my first Christmas since graduating that I can spend with my family. Because the first Christmas since graduating, I was at F1, so I was in the first year of being a doctor in the UK, and I was on call on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and there's nothing really that you can do about that. And in the second year, there was a lockdown here in the UK, so again, I couldn't see my family. So this is the first time I'm going to be able to spend, the whole Christmas period with my family, and I'm just going to relax really, maybe make some YouTube videos, but yeah, that's about it. But actually, our thing's broken, and I have no idea why. I think it was when the particles got bigger. Maybe they got bigger too quickly, like all of a sudden. Oh, cool. But when you see this in real time, you can see that it has this kind of bouncy character that I wanted. So I think it's going to break when this thing comes in there. No? What happened there? Oh, because I only had 500 frames simulating, so it had finished. Oh, that's really reassuring then. Let's watch this back. Let's see how this looks. And what I think I'll do here to stop this being so boring for you guys is I'll work on the material and things. I'll get it looking nice, and then I'll save the long simulation until right at the end. So this looks really good. Yeah. If anything, they can get even bigger, I think. Or should we keep it like this? Let's keep it like this, but I'm going to add some variation to the sizes. I don't want them all to be the same size. I want them all to be different sizes. And actually that's going to mean more cube, because some of the big ones overlap with the small ones otherwise. So let's free the bake. We're going to get rid, before I do that, I want to see the particle count, 10,000. Is that right? What's the difference between 10,000, 1250? So I'm going to go for this same number of particles, but I'm going to add some more variety to the shapes and sizes so it looks better. Let's just make this a bit bigger. And free the bake. We're going to have to get rid of this grid because it doesn't really work as well with like varied sizes. So we're just going to say random, with the number going to be much lower, so 1250. So this is the same number of particles we had before. And now we want to add some scale randomness. Now we don't really want the randomness to change. We want everything to stay like in lockstep with each other. So I'm not going to keyframe this. But if you wanted, that could be a cool like extra little variety into the particles. So if I wanted to, I could add another F curve to the random scale, maybe just to the treble or something, so the bass makes the whole thing bounce and the treble makes them a bit smaller. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use this for to get some variety in the sizes. And I want some huge ones. I don't want them all to be huge, but I want some huge particles. So let's play with this. So I want some of them to be like this kind of size, or maybe even a bit bigger. What did I do? Oh no. I think that was 0.4, that looked good. And then, yeah, and then this was like, or we can make this 0.5, so they still grow a little bit. They don't do anything, but I just want to see the sizes change. Cool. Yeah. I'm going to simulate way more frames. I might even do the whole song, that could be cool. I won't make you guys sit through the whole song, but I want to render out the whole song to see what that looks like. And now, what are we going to do? I think these are too big. Let's run the simulation and see what happens. Yeah, they don't fit inside the cube. So, now the tricky thing is I want some huge particles, but some small ones. But at the moment, there's no way to do that. Like, the only way to get more small ones compared to the big ones is to increase this. So I'm talking about like the ratio of big particles to small particles. So if we increase this, we get more small particles for the big particles. But it doesn't go as far as I would like it. So I think the only way to do this might be with a second particle system. So one particle system for the big particles and a separate one for the small particles. And then the question is, do we keyframe all of them to grow and shrink with the music, or only some of them? I think only some of them. Yeah. So I'm going to repurpose this cube. This cube is going to be like a base of really small particles that just give everything all of its energy. I'm going to reduce the number maybe to 750, and I'm going to decrease these sizes, which I'm going to change from here. And that's kind of like the small ones. These are going to give everything the movement, and they still have some randomness so that the whole thing doesn't look boring. And I'm going to duplicate this. Will this work? With this system, this has the keyframes baked already, so I can make them all dance without any extra effort. I'm just going to bake the simulation to make sure the two systems are interacting with each other, and they are. That's really cool. Because the old molecular script, you had to set this out explicitly. You had to say that, they interact with others. So these are going to be the huge particles, and there's going to be even fewer of them. So free the bakes. 500. I don't think we even need 500. Let's say 250. Oh no, let's change the other one as well. That's because they're using the same particle system. I hope that makes sense. I think I've gone really quickly. So the reason that I couldn't change this particle number was because the particle system was the same. So I'm going to duplicate this. Now, if I change this, it won't change the other one. That's good. Now these are going to be the big particles. These are going to be bigger. Let's see what this looks like. The whole thing is too big. We need to reduce all of the sizes. Ooh. So go from first frame with shift left, free all the bakes. Let's have a look. I like these sizes. I really like the mix of particles here. I don't want to make everything smaller, but I have to. So these will be 0.1, and I'll make these 0.2. And these big ones, I'll start from 0.2 and go to 0.3 or 0.4. I think because they're bigger, a small amount of bouncing will have a big effect. So let's see what this looks like. Bottom of the particle volume overlaps with the domain slightly. I didn't actually see any particles falling out. Was that only when they were bigger, or was that this current simulation? But I'll definitely watch for that next time. When I was building this cube, I tried to make sure it didn't overlap. I don't want this, you're right. So let's stop this. Let's just move everything up a little bit. That should be fine. Nice, nothing's falling through. And I like the mix now, but I think I would like a bit more volume to be filled up, if that makes sense. I want the tank or the domain to be a bit more full. So let's free the bakes. And what are we going to do here? So this, let's make these double the size. And then these are going to be bigger, and they can go even bigger. And they're too big. I thought that was a very small change. Maybe we raise the ceiling on this one. So when the music comes in, these big particles will get even bigger. And this we can keep as it was before. I'm just checking nothing goes through the floor. Great. Cool, thanks. What do you guys think? I'm not sure whether the big particles should change in size as well, or whether all of the movement should come from the bottom particles. So CD Game has just tuned in. He's asking what I'm making. I'm making a particle music visualization inside a fish tank. So it's like a glass container that has its particles that are dancing in time with the music. And we actually got much further than I thought I would in this short amount of time. And I'm just thinking about how big to make these particles. Okay, I'm going to wait until this drop comes in. Once these first beats come in, that's going to give us the maximum size of the particles. And then we'll watch it back in real time, because that really helped give us a accurate idea of what it looks like, and we'll take it from there. So there's a new problem. It's only going to 500 even though I've changed this. And I think that's going to be the cache settings. So I thought that was the cache settings. So why is it only keeping 502 frames in memory? Maybe it's a setting you can only change when it's freed. But let's just visualize this before we change that. Cool. So anyone tuning in, we're making a music visualization using these particles. I wonder if I can loop the music in the background just so we see what it sounds like. So this is the song. We're going to make a fish tank where the particles dance in time with the music. I know it's not synchronized at the moment, but I will add that later. Yeah, I'm going to say, I hope you can still hear me with the music, by the way. If the music is going, if it's too loud in my talking, just let me know. So I'm going to stick with my gun. I'm going to make the big particle stationary. I think it looks better if it's Sorry guys, my OBS was pumping the desktop audio straight to the stream. I wanted it just as this like ambient background music, and I think this is a bit better, so let me know if this is better. Yeah, this should be good. So I was just saying that I've tweaked the particle sizes. I think this is a good set of sizes, but I'm not sure why the simulation finishes at 500. I've changed the end frame here. There's no settings in the cache that I can see. There are these rigid body world. So if you make rigid body physics, you have to change the cache here. What am I missing? It's bizarre. Lifetime. Here it is. The particles are all dying after 500 frames. So let's just make this like a ridiculously big number. I wonder if you could put this in Blender. That's nice. So if you put 1E8, I'll just add 1 with 8 zeros. And this looks like the maximum actually that you can have. So let's start this simulation and see what this looks like. Actually no, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted the big particles not to change in size. I wanted them to be moved around by the ones underneath. I think that'll give the whole thing a more subtle effect. And this can be higher, it was 9. And I only changed the lifetime on one of the particle systems, not both. So let's make this 1 with 8 zeros, or whatever the biggest number Blender can handle is. Cool. So now these particles are not going to change in size, they're just going to be moved around by the ones underneath. I could have just removed this F-curve altogether and just set the size down. I could have set the size down here and removed the keyframes if I wanted to keep the size the same. But I've kept this F-curve, I've kept this music bake so that I have the option to add this back in later if I want. So I'm not sure yet, I might add some movement to those particles. Let's select this to see where we are in the animation. Cool. So to anyone tuning in, we're making a music visualization in Blender 3.0 specifically. We're using the molecular add-on script, which you can get in the description or in one of my messages in the chat. And we're using it to make these particles that interact with each other, and the size of these particles is driven by the music. So as the music plays, you can see them, they're getting bigger and smaller, and that's going to give us this cool visualization. And we're actually almost there in terms of the physics. I think the physics is almost finished. So once I'm happy with these settings, I am going to stop playing with the physics and I'll do some of the rendering, some of the materials. I mean, I wonder if I can make that at the same time, but I am scared of breaking my computer. Let's see, we go to the camera view. Can we go into rendered mode without breaking the molecular script? Ooh, rendering is working. It looks like it's still baking the physics, because you can see the physics is progressing. Cool. So we can do two things at the same time. I've got a question from Beheaded. Do I set the number of particles explicitly, or is it derived from the volume? So throughout this stream, we've used two different ways of setting the particle number. Initially, we used a grid distribution. And if you use grid distribution with a volume, then the number of particles is determined by the volume and the grid spacing. But because I changed it back to random, we can change the number of particles explicitly here. So I wanted exactly 250 particles. Good question. So let's get these materials going. Now this is going to look good with an HDR, like a high dynamic range lighting. I wonder if I still have any of those. Okay. Ooh. I like this new layout. Yes. No? How do you set images? Where did the image texture go? No, 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 no. Line texture, I think that's it. So I don't think you can see this extra screen. I'm just looking for an HDR panorama. There's one called Newport Loft, I think. That was one of my favorites. Let's see. Yes, Newport Loft. Now, do we use the HDR file or the high resolution JPEG? Let's use the HDR file, the small one. And let's get started with a glass material on the outside. Cool. I remember last time I used Blender properly, this principal BSDF was just being introduced. So people weren't sure if it was going to become part of default Blender or not. But let's... we want to use nodes. Let's open them up here instead of a graph editor and get some nice material going. So... let's preview this in real time. I want to make sure I'm using my GPU before I do that again. It felt a bit slow. I think it should have been a bit faster if I was using my GPU. System. CUDA. Now I've got a 1650 Ti in this laptop, but that doesn't look like it supports optics, unfortunately. Okay, but let's do CUDA rendering. And let's try that again. It doesn't look right. Why doesn't this look rendered to me? Let's play around with this. We don't want any roughness. And we don't want any tint. We just want a glass material. Maybe that's alpha. No. Subsurface. Why is this material not looking like glass? Let's use the glass BSDF. This is what I'm used to. This doesn't work either. So this is calling itself rendered, but it doesn't look fully rendered. I want it to be ray traced. Render a viewport. Viewport denoising, fine. Oh, I'm using Eevee. Now I want cycles. Yes. Device, GPU. Yeah, thanks. The whole thing looked off before. I think it was the Eevee renderer. I thought I was using cycles by default. Now we can't really see this because it's changing so often because it's simulating in real time. But we can do something. What we can do is select this, and we can look at the particles inside and give them a nice material. So let's give them a new material. Let's call this. Now what I want to do is randomizing. I want to randomize the colors, and we can do this with a node. Someone's telling me I'm still using Eevee, but I'm sure this is cycles. This looks like cycles. Yeah. So we're going to look for particle info node, and this will let us set a random color for each particle. Yes, there we are. Now we're not going to leave it like this. We're going to add a color ramp in between here. We're going to use and we're going to select like a small set of colors, or a little selection of colors which the particles are going to randomly be assigned to. And someone just pointed out Control B, very good idea. This should speed things up a lot. And I wonder actually, there are these weird situations where CPU rendering is faster than GPU. Because sometimes GPU takes a bit of time to process each new frame. No, that's much worse than GPU. Cool. Let's work on this material while it is simulating. Let's make it small so we get like a almost real-time preview. So we've got a random attribute from each particle, and we're going to stick in a color ramp. And yeah, we want base color. And at the moment it's going from black to white. What's a nice color for these particles? Let's make this orange. Nice Moby Motion orange. Yes, that looks pretty good. I like that. Oh. And then what do we do on the other side? Maybe a red? Or pink? Or do we keep the whole thing very subtle and have them all just different shades of orange? I actually like this color scheme. Saturation's a bit high. Or is it the value? Yeah, I think this looks nice. Don't worry, beheaded. What do people think of this color? I wonder if we can stop the simulation. I think we have enough simulation at the moment, so we can't stop it. Let's go to molecular script, select one of these, and no, yeah, and cancel. Now let's go back to wireframe. And we're going to watch it back with the music. I know the music is out of time, but this is just to get a vague idea of what it looks like. I want more movement. It's still a bit, it's not very lively. Yeah, how are we going to get more movement? These things are already moving enough, like these are moving a lot. Maybe we get everything to move, including the big particles. I think we get these to move less, but we get everything to move. And I think even more steps will help us out. So let's do like 16. I'm going to save free bakes and start the simulation again. Now this is simulating much slower. You can see how slowly this is simulating. But I think it'll help it react instantly to the music. So let's say you get a bass drum on one frame of the simulation. Beforehand, it didn't have time to react to that. It didn't have time to react to that bass. So the balls would get bigger, but then the other balls wouldn't move out of the way quick enough. But the more sub-steps you have, so the higher this number is, the more calculations it does in between frames, and so that should improve the responsiveness. And let's see what this looks like now. I think this looks nice. I like how this looks visually. I wonder what else we can add to the scene to give it some more interest. I'm just going to play with the background. So the HDR image which I have as the background, because I want the reflections to be there. I'm not sure if the reflections are there at the moment. Let's go to the world nodes. Is this still in shader editor or is that moved? Oh, I think it's got its own tab now. No. How do we change to world? Okay, so at the moment I've got this HDR driving the background. And this is quite a low resolution version of the HDR, but it helps you get less noise if you use the less noisy image for most of the lighting. I just want to check that I don't have any other, I've got some ambient inclusion on, which I could probably go without. Oh no, it's just turned to grey. Yeah, all of the light is coming from the HDR. Now, what I want to do is I want to have the high resolution HDR image, but only when the reflections are there, if that makes sense. So in the reflection, I want to see a nice HDR image, but I don't want it to be so high resolution that it causes noise. And the nice way to do that is to have a separate image for the lighting and a separate one for the reflections. So let's do that. We want camera data. No, that's not right. So look at these. No. Light path. Yeah, this is the one. So I'm just gonna move out of my camera view so you can see the HDR image. So you can see it's very low resolution. It's very blurry, it looks blurry, and that's because I don't want it to cause noise. But I want the reflections to be very detailed. So I'm going to select a second image. And this is going to be the 8K image, so the highest resolution image I have. And I'm going to blend these depending on where you're looking at them from. So I'm just going to do a sanity check to make sure this is the high resolution image. Nice. Yeah, there you are. So this is the image that I'm using for the lighting. And I want to make sure that the reflections use all of this high resolution image. So I found this view where I can see a reflection of the top there. Yeah. Let's pick a view where we can see the reflection nicely. And now we're going to make this reflection only, we're going to make this only for reflections, not for lighting. So, how do we do that? We need some kind of mixing node. Vector. Maybe mix RGB. Yeah. So we're going to mix these two things based on whether you are a glossy ray or not. So if we do this, and this, and this, we should still see the high resolution reflection. Let's give it a second to initialize the new scene. Nice. But the lighting's blurry also. Still got it. Okay, so this looks nice. When I was planning this, I imagined it being purple, but actually Let's have a look at these particle settings. I'm going to copy this color. You can just hover over it and press Control C, and I should copy it. Because I'm going to change this, but I don't want to lose the nice color I have now. I quite liked this really pastel tone look before I added the red color. So the whole thing is kind of these pastel colors. Maybe a compromise, maybe something like that. Should I add some camera blur? Because the scene is stationary, or at least the focus point is just going to be the front of the box. That's going to be stationary, so there's no need to do anything fancy. I want this to focus on the front of the box. If you use this eyedropper and just click there, it'll focus on the middle of the box, but I want it to focus on the nearest point. So let's visualize what the camera's doing by selecting limits. We'll remove this, and you can see it's pretty close already, which is surprising and nice. We're going to increase this until, I'm going to type 11, we're going to increase this until it's just on the box. I think that's what I want. So let's visualize this and see. So I'm not sure if it's okay. Let's make this camera unrealistically wide. I know no camera in the world has this low of an f-stop, but let's see. Nice. So that's where it's focusing, and I think that's good. And we're just going to play with this until we have a nice amount of blur. I think this is too much. Yeah, this is nice, it's subtle. Good idea. Someone's saying I can use an empty for focus if I'm going to move the camera. Okay, I think we have simulated enough. Let's watch this back and see what it looks like. I instinctively pressed spacebar, and I'm not sure what that did. Okay, cancel. Nice. Let's watch it back. Let's watch it in material preview. Does that give you transparency? Not quite. Let's just go back to good old wireframe. Okay. What do we think of this? This is nice. Yeah, that's all it's simulated. It's still not lively enough. I wanted it to have some more movement to it. I wanted balls to hit the ceiling. What can we do? Let's add some more movement to these balls again. Cool. Yeah. Let's see what this looks like. Now, I'm thinking of some other elements which I'm going to add to the scene to give it some more interest. It's a bit boring at the moment, so if I render this, if I see what this looks like, it's a bit flat. Maybe a texture on the bottom. Yeah. When did my picture-in-picture stop? I think my camera's just run out of battery. All cameras back. I'm just going to fix the lighting. BRB. I've not responded to comments in a bit, but let me just get the lights on. Okay, so to anyone tuning in now, we're making a Blender music visualization. I'm not sure why it's stuck in the bottom corner like that. But we're making a simulation to visualize the music that we're listening to. Okay. So we're making a Blender music visualization to this music that you're hearing now. And the visualization is a kind of glass box where you can think of like a fish tank. And as the music plays, the particles inside the box bounce up and down. And so at the moment we've got the simulation running, the molecular script is simulating, is saying, 10 minutes left. Hopefully it's closer to 10 minutes, not 30 minutes. And while the simulation is running, I'm working on the materials and I'm making sure that we have a nice looking overall scene. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Hope to see you soon. So, where was I? I was thinking about a material for this table that it's kind of sitting on top of. And there was a Blender user called Syncretic3D who used to have these really great materials that he would share for free, and I would just use them in some of my videos. But recently he's taken down some of the videos and some of the materials that I used in my old tutorials, which is a shame. I wonder if we should use an old material or try and make a concrete material from scratch. Let's start making a concrete material from scratch. Let's see where that takes us. I'm going to shader editor for this table. It's got the base BSDF material. I'll just check that it's plugged in, everything's working, great. I mean, this is going to be tricky with this re-rendering every second, but let's see how far we can get. Okay, so we're going to add let's try a Musgrave texture. Now, forget what these look like. Let's just visualize these quickly to see whether this is the right material. Yeah. I'll get a few of these going. I'll mix them with each other to get a more realistic material, but this is a good base. And we don't want to plug it straight into the base color. We want to plug it into a color ramp. Ooh. Color ramp or a curve? Or maybe both eventually. But for now, we just want a color curve. Color ramp. We just want a color ramp. There we are. What's this? And we want to give the material some displacement as well. So I think we plug this in, and then height goes to height. And this should give it some bump mapping kind of. Yeah, it's hard to see because it's rendering so often, but it does have some bit of texture to it. Someone's suggesting material preview for the table. Yeah, good thinking. So the displacement isn't going to show on there, but let's see if the color shows. Any tips on improving this render preview? It's not showing anything. Ooh. Wait, what did I do to make that show up? Was I just being impatient? Did I just need to leave it a bit longer and then it shows? Okay, but that's nice. It looks like it's even showing the displacement as well. It looks a bit 3D to me. Yeah, it just takes a bit to change every time you make a change, but that's okay. This is much better than the render preview. So change this. I want this to look like a granite kind of worktop. Eventually, it's got a long way left. Long way to go. But that's the kind of scale that I want. What are these settings? I love playing with all these settings. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Detail. I think this will add some like finer scale detail to it. It looks like it just made it darker. Okay, I think that was fine at the default value. Now let's play with this. So I don't want white. I want a cream kind of material, and this will have to be tweaked in the real like render preview. But this will get us started. And the dark color isn't going to be black. It's going to be. So I copied the cream. We're going to paste it here. So now it's just one uniform color. We can decrease this now to give it some kind of difference, and that's showing up already. Actually, it's subtle, but it is there. Yeah, nice. So how do I set the alpha blend mode? I want to see the particles in this render preview. I'll keep working on this in the meantime. This is a bit intense. I don't want it to be this strong. So I'm just making the effect a bit more subtle. I'm not sure if it's there anymore. Maybe that means it's too subtle. This should be good, and we can look at this again in the render preview. Okay. I want to see if we can get a rough idea of what this looks like. Okay, so I'm trying to make this transparent in the material preview. On the material preview, on the material menu, scroll down to blend. Blend mode. Ah, let's see what these look like. Thanks very much, that's really helpful. It's not showing up yet, maybe it's just loading the textures, but we'll try and make this transparent so we can see things. Sure we need this as well. Maybe that only works with the principal BSDF. I think I tried all of them. This is something. Yeah, you can actually see the particles, but the reflection is too strong. I wonder if this makes a difference or if I'm just making this up. Shadow none, I don't think it'll change anything. Yeah. So I had alpha hash, alpha blend. Let's try alpha clip. I think alpha blend was the best one. This shows us something. Like you can see the particles there if you look very closely. Like there's a ball there. Yeah, you can see them going down a little bit. Now, how do I make the reflection less strong? Viewport display. Roughness. It looks very metallic, but metallic is 0. I want 0, I want even less metallic. Maybe it's the fact that I've got multiple faces. There's like a front face and a back face of the glass. Okay, so metallic didn't do anything. Maybe color. Maybe this will be less glossy. Nope. No volume. Okay, so this hasn't done anything, so let's put this back to what it was before. Alpha blend is working, let's see what this does. I mean that helps. I'm not sure why it helps, but it does help a little bit. Show backface was required. What about screen space? Refraction limit. Yeah. Let's see what they'll say. Yeah, show back face. So show back face was helping. Refraction depth. Yeah, you'd think that you want deep refraction. Ooh, no, back face was helping. Yeah, because you can kind of see that. So what if I have back face? Screen space reflections. Did that do anything? No, refraction depth. So what if I allow the light to get deeper? I don't know. This is just the same or worse. I think we're just going to have to live with it. But at least this is something. Like, this lets us see the concrete material we're building, and we can see kind of where the balls are. You can see them there. So let's stick with this. I think this will be fine. Yeah. Let me switch this to a principled BSDF now that we've troubleshooted that. Principled BSDF. Now I want no subsurface. I want transmission. This is going to make it glassy. And then, why doesn't this look right? Ah, there we are. And this is nice. It gives you a bit more realistic reflections. Cool. We're about 30%. We're about 30% simulated. So I wonder if we should stop the simulation. I think we have enough simulation, and then we can see what this looks like and work on the materials in more detail. So we're going to select a particle system. We're going to cancel, and we're going to go to the first frame. Let's watch this back. And let's watch this back with the music. This is almost in time. Yeah, this looks good. I still would like it to have more energy to it, a bit more movement. But for now, I'm happy with it. Let's use this to get the materials looking good. Okay. Let's work on this a little bit. It looks a bit darker than before. What's causing that? Get rid of specular, maybe. Like this pure white. That's better. Yeah, that's fine. Let's make the world a bit brighter. Nice. And let's look at this table material. Yeah, I think the displacement is a bit too strong. So 0.1, we couldn't see it in material preview, but we can see it here, and that looks okay. It looks a bit smooth. I'm going to add just a little something to make it, to give it some more roughness. So maybe if I mix two of these Musgraves textures together, what if I just increase the scale of this? So it's 400 now, what about 800? That does look better, but I think it should be mixed. Oh no. I just want to mix these two things together. Let's try mix RGB and see what that does. That looks fine actually. I think that will work. So what we'll do is duplicate this, and then we can have a few things going on. Let's double it again, 1600. That looks all right. What do people think? Why is this not connecting? Oh, there we are. Yeah, this looks better. I think the bump effect is still a bit too strong. Yeah. I was reading someone's comment. You need to change the displacement option in material property settings to displacement only. Is that for render, or is that only if I'm using material preview? Let's see. Yeah, bump only. Or displacement only. Ah. I mean, let's see what this does. I think this will do. I think this is pretty good. Let's look at this full screen. Yeah. The balls are still slightly weird colors. Let's fix that. And that'll be the final thing. And then I will do one really long bake and I'll post the full video to the channel. We want the other object, don't we? Let's select it from here. So the icosphere. I think this is too pink. I want more like a orange. Ooh. Or do I want a completely different color? Kind of like this, even though it clashes. I wonder if there's a way to make these middle ones not look as like muddy. Sometimes these other blending modes can help. Oh, I think ooh, this looks nice. Maybe they can all be orange. Maybe linear is fine. I think I need to change this one. Yeah, that's what that's what I was looking for, but it doesn't look like I wanted it to. It looks cartoony, like a ball pit. Maybe if this was a ball pit, this would work well, but it's not what I'm going for today. So let's stick with RGB. Let's make more of them orange, because I like that. And this will make less of them blend as well. And if we push these together, there'll be less muddy middle colors. Cool. Cool. I think this is ready. Might as well go full RGB. Let's save this because I think this looks fine. But let's try one that's full RGB. Let's make hue 0. And then here, we'll make hue 0 as well, or just after 0. And then we make this clockwise, yeah. So this is full RGB. This doesn't look bad, to be honest, but it's just a different vibe to what I was going for. Yeah. This is almost finished. I'm just going to change the particle sizes. I'll make everything a bit smaller, and then I'll run the simulation. I'm going to put this back. I wonder if these balls need some texture, or if they're so small and they're behind the glass that you can't really tell. But I'll add just a touch of it. I'll just add a little bit of texture to see what it looks like. Texture, see the same good old Musgrave that we used before for the surface. This is way too strong. Let's see, 0.1. This looks pretty nice, I think. Or it's getting there. Let's make the scale bigger, which makes the details finer. Maybe like this. I can hardly tell it's there at the moment. So I can hardly tell there's a texture there. That's kind of what you want. You don't want it to be over obvious. You'd rather be too subtle than too obvious. And actually, let's pump this same texture into a roughness value, so the balls look like a dirty kind of glossy plastic material. Yeah, I think roughness, I think this, and then I'll have to add a color ramp. Yeah. Curves. I think curves will work nicely here because I can visualize what I'm doing. So I want everything to be very low roughness, and then it looks like a glossy material. So this should look like everything looks like plastic, yeah. So you can see these reflections starting to creep in around there. But if we bring this up just a touch, if I can get to it, this will use the texture that we have to drive the roughness. So it's not going to be shiny everywhere. And just little touches like that can be enough to make things look much more realistic. I think we're almost there. The displacement here looks a bit harsh, so I'm just going to reduce this down even more. A thin metallic band overlay. I think I'm happy with this material. This is kind of what I was going for. They're like plastic. I want them to look like plastic. Make the balls Pac-Man. Yeah. I'm starting to not like this blue anymore. Let's just do, yeah, something like this. So where it's the same color, but it blends to like a more subtle version of that same color. Why didn't that work? So I want to copy this color, copy, copy, copy. And here I want to paste it. Paste, yeah. Now we turn the saturation down. That could be really nice. It's just something subtle, just to stop them being the same boring old ball. Yeah, a bit more pronounced. My watch is telling me I've been sitting down for too long. Okay. Yeah, I like this. Okay. Now I'm going to make this a little bit thinner. I think the walls are too thick. Yes. I'm going to make the balls different sizes. I'm going to change the sizes a little bit. So I'm going to make more of these small balls. Yeah, I can just increase the number in here. I can have more of these. 1,500. And then this one, these ones, I'm going to have fewer of the big ones. Maybe just 100. And then let's run a quick simulation of this. Awesome, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed this cut down tutorial on my channel. So I think doing things live is nice because you get to make mistakes together and kind of solve them together. Tutorial. Or would you rather just have someone doing the right thing straight away? Now, what do I have for this? So this is, so the big balls are changing, but just a tiny little bit. And the small, yeah, this is good, this is what I want.